Hey there, athletes. Coach John Ferry here from Team Wilpers. Excited as always to welcome you here to our athlete briefing. It's going to be week 4 for our half marathon extension and spring run challenge. Start with a quick week 3 review. So for our spring run crew out there, we started the week with our threshold workout. It was an expansion on that workout with a little bit longer intervals, a little bit more total time at zone. We moved again to our VO2 max workout, once also further extending the time at zone there, hitting those very popular 3-minute intervals, which I heard a little bit about this week. And if you're doing these workouts right, those VO2 max might be starting to sting a little bit. That's a tough time kind of coming into it. I think I said last week, the max we get there is about 4 minutes in a time there in this particular training challenge. So we were almost there. Very solid second effort of the week. Our half marathoners had another big, long, steady state, easy run to kickstart the week, that endurance workout. And then key run number 2, that progressive interval workout. So lots of pace adjustments, lots of pacing practice coming in and out of pace zones. Really good, bulky amounts of time spent at sub-threshold and threshold energy zones. All really good things to be doing here in the weeks leading into your key race. Per usual, runners finish the week with a long, steady state, easy run. Half marathoners have another long, big bulky run here this weekend, probably coming up tomorrow or Sunday for most. Teeny little bit of housekeeping. You might have seen on the Facebook page this week, we opened the pre-order for new Team Wilpers apparel. So there's both the general shop and our all access premium shop. So for all access members, make sure you look at that specialty link. There are a few more options available. That window will be open until April 10th for the new merch. T-shirts and other athleisure stuff ships very quickly. Some of the performance wear takes a little bit longer. Hopefully we get that expedited in the future. But in the meantime, that window is open until April 10th. Now to our week 4 workout. So we're gonna start with the spring run crew here. So we're pulling off the gas this week in spring run, all right? You've been working hard, and this week is the reward. So in training, we're always trying to create specific adaptations based upon the load applied. Part of the process of that adaptation process is the loading, and part is the unloading. And so in our unloading, we're trying to reduce volume, we're trying to reduce intensity, we're trying to back off a little bit. So hopefully allows your body a chance to recover from the previous 3 weeks and all the kind of hard work you've been putting in. It allows you to continue training aerobically, and sets the stage, maybe most importantly, for the big training block to follow. Half marathoners. So I have a little bit of a confession here. 2023, we did a 5-week extension added onto our program. And in 2024, we were supposed to have a 6-week extension added onto our program. But whenever it got set in the system, it went in again as a 5-week extension. So this is going to be the longest 5-week extension of your life because it's actually now 6 weeks long. So surprise, you get a bonus week of half marathon training at no additional cost or effort to you. So that program is now a 6-week program, which actually lines up with races at the end of April, the last weekend of April, as opposed to the week before, which is not when that program is supposed to end. So what that kind of means overall, we'll get to in a second, is actually if you were in there early and you were peaking and stuff, the week remains ultimately the same, other than that there's one more big long run next weekend for a half marathoner. So let's jump into the week. Once again, we start the week, endurance workout, another steady state easy run, certainly keeping a little bit of variety in there with those striders, continuing to build endurance. Key run number 2, half marathon pace intervals. It's been a few weeks since we had our kind of a dedicated half marathon pace interval workout. So we're coming back to it as we get a little bit closer to race day. Goal of the workout is relatively simple. It's extended blocks of time and half marathon pace. So this is another great opportunity to really start drilling in and practicing the pace that you plan to go run your race at. So whether or not that exactly jives with, let's say, your pace calculator pace there, doesn't matter at this point. At this point, I would much rather have you go running that pace where you plan to run your race so that you can feel it right from the start. use those opportunities coming in and out of it. We have a few intervals here, so take that as practice to find the pace, hold the pace, and hopefully still maintain a nice kind of steady, even effort. This is very much an endurance pace that most people are going to hold for the better part of a couple hours, if not longer. So it should feel easy over 5 and 10 minutes. If it feels very, very hard for 10 minutes, you have to start asking yourself, is it a pace that's realistic to sustain for, let's say, multiple hours? Finish the week up with our long run. Spring run crew, 45 to 75 minutes kind of respectively. And half marathoners, here's the big change one more time, is we're not supposed to start our back down this upcoming week. It's 2 weeks out, so we're 10 to 12 miles, maybe a good opportunity to utilize the range. If you're feeling really good, take it to the far edge. If you're starting to feel a little fatigue, have any sort of niggles, back it down just a little bit to keep it to the light end. But it's not till the week following that we go into basically a 9-10 day taper there. Questions that have come up. We've got a couple here. So is there a range on our paces, threshold, VO2 max, etc., like there are in cycling? And the answer is yes, there absolutely is a range. So we, in terms of our programming, opt for pace targets for the most part outside of easy pace as opposed to a pace range, but there's definitely wiggle room on both sides. And as a matter of fact, a good reference or resource more so is one of our coaches, Brian Hammond, did kind of a whole presentation about energy zones and coming in and out of them pretty recently. It's on the Team Wilpers YouTube page, so it'd absolutely be worth taking a listen to for kind of an in-depth look at what some of those ranges on pace are there. I won't go into it entirely here, but yes is the answer. Our second question here, which actually relates pretty darn closely, is curious if there is an easy translation of our running paces to a similar power zone pace on the bike. Example, VO2 max is a zone 5 to 6. Or asking for a friend who's supposed to be trying not to run for a few weeks. Yes. So great question. Good opportunity. So most of us at some point of our running career, running journey, have something that makes us have to step back. And the good opportunity in that moment is if you can do some other form of lower leg related cardiovascular activity, you can really maintain a lot of fitness. Then if you can go in and kind of energy zone match what you would have been doing on your run, even better. So I personally use a 7-zone system as well. That is not the only system. It doesn't mean that you have more than 7 energy zones or less than 7 energy zones. Just different people title them in different ways. So when I think about it for us and what we're doing here, I think of it in 7 zones. So it's going to translate to cycling zones that use the 7-zone system as well. Zone 1 would be that very easy effort. So in running, you're not in zone 1 very much. It's hard to do it. It's almost like a fast walk or an incredibly easy run. Zone 2 is then all of a sudden our endurance or aerobic or our easy pace running for the most part. And we can start a long conversation about how long you stay zone 2 versus beginning zone 3, etc. But that's kind of the idea there, is that's kind of our zone 2 is our easier pace effort. Zone 3 becomes kind of tempo, if you will, very, very cycling term that we kind of use sometimes in running. It's a tempo, but that's basically a sub-threshold effort. Tends to include paces like marathon pace, half marathon pace. Actually, an interesting opportunity because questions have come up over the course of time about can I actually run my half marathon pace via my pace calculator, or can I actually run that marathon pace? And there's a lot of great conversation that goes into that. But what we actually use to calculate it is a percentage of threshold. So those are respectively, 97 and 94% of threshold. Those are how far under that Z4 you're getting, so in your sub-threshold zones. Zone 4 is threshold. So Z4 on the bike, threshold equals, for the most part, Z4 on the run. So a threshold to threshold workout translates. Zone 5 is VO2 max. Zone 6 is anaerobic capacity. Zone 7 is neuromuscular power. Very rarely get into that on the run, maybe ever so slightly on the bike from time to time, but not something we look at very often. So if you're sidelined from the run, you can definitely do energy zone matching on, let's say you could do it on a bike, you could do it on an elliptical, many other things. You kind of have to know how to do that, but it is absolutely possible. So I'll use this week's upcoming spring run challenge as a good example here, because we have a threshold and we have a VO2 max workout over the course of the week. So we're energy zone matching to try to maintain that fitness from that you're kind of not being able to run with on the bike, doing kind of a zone 4, which would also in cycling be referred to as a sweet spot kind of ride, would be a great idea to try to, kind of push that energy zone without being able to actually run the workout. Similarly, doing the kind of a zone 5 based VO2 max ride would be a great way to stimulate that energy zone without actually being able to run the workout. And then the rest of the week's really going to be zone 2, just like we would have done with our easy pace running. It's going to be pretty low key zone 2 running across the zone 2 riding if you're using the bike to try to match those energy zones there. It's not a 100% crossover effect, so you're not going to be able to cycle your way to great run fitness, just like you're not going to be able to run your way to great cycle fitness. There are some specificities there, but if you're forced away from the run, it's a pretty darn good option to try to maintain fitness and you maybe even continue building overall fitness by kind of matching those energy zones on the bike. Otherwise, that is all here for this week. I appreciate you, as always, you being here. I hope you have an amazing week. I can't wait to see you here soon. Have a great one.